In the previous video, we have added to our car prefab a script called Car AI that will allow us to pass to our car a path, and the car should be following the path and rotating to face the points of interest. So now, what we will want to do is test this setup with our simple graph. So we are going to place some road on our map. We are going to place a house and a special structure, and we are going to spawn a car, and it should travel from our house towards our shop or our special structure and follow the path given to it using the center of each road prefab. So let's stop the game, and to test our car, we are going to go to our scripts folder, and we are going to modify previously implemented code in the AI director. This script is responsible for directing our pedestrians, giving them directions how they should work, and we are going to reuse it to spawn our car and give it directions as well. So let's double tap on the AI director and open it up in Visual Studio. Great! Now, what we can see here is that AI director has access to the placement manager, a script that I have mentioned about that is able to run A-star algorithm and can get the information from the grid about the structures on each cell on our map. And we can see here that we have this adjacent graph, called graph, and this is graph used for pedestrians. And we are going to reuse this adjacent graph class for our cars. You can learn more about this adjacent graph class. We implement it from the bottom up in the Pedestrian AI tutorial series that I have on my YouTube channel. In any case, what we can see here is that we have try spawning an agent class that allows us to spawn our agent to calculate the end position and start position and to calculate the path. And we will need to implement the same kind of method for our cars. So first of all, we will need to get the access to our car prefab. So let's slide up and let's add a public void, or rather game object, and let's call it car prefab. Okay. Let's slide down and let's create a method called, maybe after the try spawning an agent above the spawn all agents, we are going to call public void spawn a car. And we are going to assign this method to a button so that we can spawn a car on click of a button. We will want to call for each tab var house, and we are going to get access to all the houses on our map using our placement manager. So type placement manager dot get all houses, and this will simply get all the structures of type house from our map. And what we will want to do here is we are going to call try spawning a car, and what we are going to pass here is house, and as the second parameter we are going to call placement manager, and we are going to select get random special structure, which means that we are going to get a random shop around the map, and this will allow us to drive our car from the house towards the shop. So alt enter on this try spawning a car since we do not have it, and generate it in our class. It should be generated below the current method. As you can see, the house is of type structure model, and this will allow us to access the road prefab that is close to our house. And for the special structure, again, this is a structure model. So let's rename the house to be start position or start structure. The second parameter will be end structure. Okay, so now we will want to make sure that those both structures exist. So we are going to type if our structure start structure is not null, and if our end structure is not null. And if they are both not null, they should have access to the closest road prefab near them, and we will need to get this reference. And if we take a look at our try spawning an agent, it gets something called I needing road, which has access to a road position. And this is a property which is of type vector3 int. Slide it down to our try spawning a car, and we are going to call var start road equals, in parentheses, type I needing road. This is an interface that contains one property of type vector3int. Add another parenthesis, and in those second parentheses outside, we are going to type start structure, and out of this we can access dot, and we should see the road position as the parameter. So this is the road position for our start road. Let's copy this line because now we can paste it below and instead pass let's call it end road, and let's call end structure. And now we will have access to the end road position. So maybe let's rename it to start road position and end road, Ctrl RR, and let's type position. Okay, great. So now we have those two positions, and as I have mentioned previously, we can already calculate if there is a path connecting those two positions, so meaning the road that is connecting those two positions. So let's type var path equals our placement manager dot get path between, and here we are going to simply pass the start position as vector3int and end position vector3int. So let's type start road position and end road position, and this will return us a list of vector3ints as the path. Now let's assume that we have our path. So what we want to do is call var car equals instantiate, and we are going to pass here our car prefab as the game object, and start road position as the position to use for spawning our game object, and let's type quaternion dot identity as the rotation, so no rotation basically. And this is our car, and let's give our car our path. So let's call car dot get component of type car AI, and on it we can call set path, the method that we have implemented in the previous video. Now the only issue is that we want to have a list of vector3s, but what we have received is a list of vector3ints. Now we are using vector3ints to have easier time comparing them in our grid structure, but we can quickly modify it. So what we can call here in set path is we can call path, which is our path calculated from the placement manager, dot convert all, and this method allows us to convert each instance from our path to be of different type. So let's type x lambda expression, so equals and greater, and what we can call is we can simply open parentheses, let's type vector3, and we can cast our x, so each position from our list, from our path of a list of vector3ints, and we are going to cast them back to vector3s. Since float can take an int and we can cast an int as a float, this will work the same, and we are going to cast our vector3ints as vector3s, and this will work fine. Later on, we are going to get a list of vector3s from our path calculation. For now, let's save it, and we will need to make sure that we assign this spawn a car method somewhere so that we can spawn a car. So let's save the script and let's go back to Unity. Great. First of all, we will need to find out our AI director. It should be a game object in our hierarchy. Let's select it. And we do not have car prefab. So let's go to our prefabs folder and let's drag our car as the car prefab into our AI director script. Next, we do not have a button that we could use to spawn our cars. So let's go to our hierarchy, let's open the canvas, let's open the panel, and we should have our buttons. So we do not want this, we want to choose the spawn pedestrian, and each is a button. So let's duplicate this button, Ctrl D, and we should be able to press F on our scene view and choose the 2D view in the scene window so that we can see our button. And let's press W or choose the move tool, and we can slide this downwards so we have our button here. Now let's change the name in the inspector for this button. Let's change it to spawn car. Let's open or extend this car spawn car object in the hierarchy to get to the text, and let's change the text from spawn pedestrian to spawn car, or cars actually, because it will spawn car for every house. Okay. And now, last thing we need to do is select our spawn car and slide down in the inspector to see what is its on-click method that is called. For now, right now, we're calling AI director and spawn all agents. So let's select this drop-down list. Let's select the AI director and let's instead choose spawn a car. Now we should be able to spawn a car. So let's save it. And now if we press play, we can select road and place a road, select house and place house on one side of the road, and select special and place it on the other end of the road. And if we press spawn car, the car should be spawned, but it is traveling in a strange fashion. And this is because of my mistake. Stop the game. Let's go back to our scripts and let's reopen our AI director. Great. Let's slide down to our Troy spawning a car. And the issue is because our get path between returns our path in reverse. So what we will want to do is call our path.reverse. And this method will reverse the order of points. So we are going to start from the start point, not from the end point. This is the mistake that I have done in the previous tutorial. So we need to reverse the order of points on our path. So let's now save it. Let's go back to Unity. Okay. So let's select our car prefab inside our prefabs folder. And let's reduce the max speed from 3 to 0.4 or something like this. Let's save it. Now I'm going to press play. And we should see if we place a bit shorter road, because our car will go slower, place house on one end of the road, place special on another one, let's spawn a car. You can press escape to exit the placing menu, the placing state, and now we can see that our car is traveling through a road, be it much slower, but it is sticking to the road. So this is great. We have our car working. Now the last thing that we will need to implement for it to be truly working is to make our car stick to one lane. And this is what I was talking about in the theory section. We're going to implement some car markers to our road prefabs and create a graph here and run an A-star pathfinding algorithm to find a concrete path on our road. Now, if you are enjoying this video, leave a like, leave a comment. It helps me immensely. Anyways, see you in the next video.